Welcome to the Kodaris Community Show with your hosts, Tony and Margaret, and the occasional friend stopping by. This is the podcast where we explore how innovation and technology is reshaping distribution and the supply chain as a whole. Discover how technology is making companies more efficient and profitable, making their customers happier, and is paving the way for our future. Join us for insights from industry experts, interviews with innovators, and actionable ideas to stay ahead in our rapidly evolving world. Today, we're joined by Munawar Quaraishi, President of Safety Express. Here's our conversation. So we'll start from the beginning. How do you two know each other?
Do you want me to start, Tony, or do you want to start?
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we met, I want to say somewhere around 2020, maybe 2019-ish. I think we had already had our ERP approved, our whole kind of digital journey into the cloud approved at HD supply. And we were struggling at that time. I think we knew that the ERP was going to be an easy transition for us, but we had a legacy e-commerce platform, and it was like we were on the Infor's storefront, and it was like a very old version of it. In order for us to go to the new ERP, we had to take kind of a couple of steps. But we were looking at, and for life of me, I can't remember the name of the e-commerce tools that they had sold us, and it just nothing was going to work for us. It was a B2C, it was a B2C tool, and it just, everything was saying you got to stop and figure this out. We met a couple of guys. He kind of put us onto a solution that they had, and then he introduced us to Tony. And right there, I think the moment that I'm going to say it's like love at first sight. So,
but you're not saying it.
we've had like a what do they call that? A bromance for a long time. But I think like that conversation was, we had a problem, and Tony's solution at Kodaris had been solving what we needed for a long time with GMS. And I would be like, hey, so we need this, and this. Yeah, we do that. Okay, well, what about this, the future state? Yeah, we do that. We can do that. We can do that. And it was like, the thing I think that really got me was when he said, hey, we're the company that takes what you want and builds it throughout our platform for every customer to have, because we know that we're going to learn from what's going on in the field and be able to apply it. And so for me, that conversation was really about not, hey, we're going to do everything for everyone, everywhere. It was, you understand what you do really, really well. And we want to take that learning and apply it, but also take a level of technology experience that we have at Kodaris and apply and allow you to see it in a way that you don't typically think to see it. And so I really like the idea of being able to put the right customizations in front of us, and for our customer, the way our customers want to see it, and taking both sides of the equation, kind of say the engineering side and the customer side, and be able to apply them together, not just one side. Hey, we do it this way. That's it. This is what you're going to get. It was really a good conversation. And I think that for me was what made this relationship really good. It was, we were really conversing about building a ship that gets us to where we need to get to, as opposed to, hey, we're going to build a ship for you. You just get on and go. So.
Yeah, I think being introduced early on, I think the first thing that I saw, one, I'm dreaming the future. I love to work with people who are innovative, thinking about the future. As I recommend and say, hey, what if we did it this way rather than what you're asking me? Lots of times people are not open to that. And let's face it, you get into a potential sale with a big brand name, and lots of times there's the RFP, people are lining things up feature to feature, instead of having a conversation about we're deciding the future. And I think even for Kodaris, we didn't necessarily do business with everyone. And I turned some people off early on because I said, why would you do it that way? And this goes back to what we talked about, that, this is the future, this is the way it's going. So I think, one, just the innovation and the big picture thinking, Munawar and I, yes, since day one, kind of hit it off really well, that it's big picture innovation. It's where we're going, not where we are today or the capabilities we have today. Um, and then, he said something very unique to me, which I knew drove me. Some companies will sell you something and then you get into it and then you're kind of let down that, well, you believe the sales and marketing and now it wasn't the delivery. I, I think Munawar made a comment to me about, I do business based on relationship. I think it was a second or third conversation. You have to have the feature set, but the relationship is everything for me to do business. And I think that, to Kodaris employees, that drives us even more to deliver, please the customer. Not that we don't deliver, but it's when somebody's betting their future on us, which we feel every customer is. To me personally and to our team, it becomes, we can't let them down. Come hell or high water, we can't let them down. And and that was something that was exciting to me, to partner with somebody who understood that, had that vision.
It's funny, like not a lot of your customers get to go to I'm going to call it your customer council, Eris. But if you are fortunate enough to see what happens there, you see, like, this isn't just like Tony just saying a bunch of words and, for a podcast that he's trying to like sell to everybody. It's not like that. This is like truly authentic. Like and I think for me, that's what was the big deal, was that it wasn't just words. Like every word you say, I actually can see in every conversation and every action that you and the organization takes. And I think that's kind of the big difference between what you do today and what your organization's doing compared to what we see in the marketplace, where it's just like, a bunch of sales speak, and and then the action might be a little different or modified from that. So
I appreciate you leaving marketing out of that time. Tony isn't so kind to me. He lumps me in with marketing and sales speak.
Well, that's why Margaret's the number 3 or 4 marketer, but she's gonna last. I have full confidence she's gonna last.
And I have that recorded now, which is perfect for me. But it really sounds like this type of partnership does not come around. Tony, you were saying, not even every customer can be this kind of partner. So both of you, what do you think it is that makes a partnership actually work? Because it feels like there is, I will admit to it, in the marketplace, there's a lot of people that will refer to customers as partners and talk about collaboration and caring about, even your customers' needs and building that first. But what is underneath that in terms of actions or in terms of values that actually can stand up an effective partnership?
yeah, I think from my perspective, like really clear expectations, like, and it's not even like you do this, we do this. It's a legal agreement. No, it's like, hey, we agree we're not going to lie to each other. If I'm BSing myself, you be honest with me and you tell me, you know what? You're not telling yourself, you don't look nice in that shirt, whatever. That's not your color. You know what I mean? Like it literally has to be like that, because there's so many things. Like I have so many wants in what I want to see and all that stuff. But reality and today and reality 10 years from now are two different things. And I get that. I need reality today that can build into to that. And I think not, that, hey, look, that's you're the BS meter's going off. And, and I think Tony would say like, okay, like you can do that, but, and not let us like go in a tangent that's going to take us way off somewhere else. It's not according to what we agreed to, scope creep, all that stuff. And I think that to me, is super super important through the process, clear expectations. And I think like I got our values behind me. I think having very similar values around, integrity, ethics, teamwork, collaborate, like all of those things have to really align up. Like in our organization, I think about we call them our 4 pillars. We took these 9 and we broke them down into 4 pillars. And it's like, do the right thing, build strong relationships, make evidence-based decisions, and grow every day. And so for me, like if those 4 things align, and that's kind of how I look at my relationships, are based off that. Is someone going to apply those things to me when we speak and have conversations so that I am not going to put myself, or I can reduce the risk of every decision I make so I can keep moving forward is I think what was really important from my perspective.
Yeah, I hear so many stories or things I say. So the first one, Munawar and I spoke together at an Infor event, and I remember we spoke about project management, doing a project together. And I remember a lady from the audience asking, well, what do you tell your customers when the technology won't work because they have bad data? Like, how do you handle working through that with the customer? And I looked at him and never said, how else would you handle it? I tell them they have crappy data. They need to fix it. Like I don't understand what the question is. Like,
I could see you getting confused at that. You're like, what's the question? How do you tell them? I guess I would do it probably over a Zoom call, but like.
So, and I think one other example is when I have this rule, if a customer asks me to do something I think is dumb, they're going to have to email, put it in writing. They have to tell me 3 times and put it in writing so that I have something to point back to, because when it doesn't work and they paid for it, they're going to be unhappy. And I'm going to be like, you forced me to do this, right? It doesn't happen often. It has happened once or twice. But I think that goes back to just the fact of being honest. Like if I don't think that's right, we should be very honest about expectations and about what's going to happen if we do this. Yeah. If I come with a technology idea and Munawar says that will never work in business and here's why, that's education for us, innovation. Okay, I get it. Let's pivot. What if we did it this way, right? Would that make sense? Because if you're going to be partners for the long term in relationships, to Munawar's point, he could have worn a nicer shirt today, but he didn't, right? So if I tell him that, then next time we'll get a better result. But if we're constantly making each other better in that partnership, then we're going to be together for the long term. And I used to use the term, our customers become like family to us. And you can say that, but when you've been together for 10 years with my team, we get frustrated sometimes with customers. I always say, well, not everybody loves their family all the time, but we all get along. Nobody's going anywhere, so let's work through it. Let's come to terms with it. Let's talk through it. But I think that goes to the power of a relationship. It's not a vendor-customer. It's our businesses are tied together. We're working through this. We're delivering the future. It's not always going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And in our shared values, it's own your mistakes, make it right. Right? I mean, it's just what you need to do, because nobody's going to be perfect forever, especially in technology. It's not going to happen.
One thought that just came to my head is that if you are truly invested in my success, you will tell me the truth. I don't have to take it. Like, I don't have to agree with it. Like, it's just an opinion. Like, hey, my shirt's ugly. It's an opinion.
It's a great shirt.
What's that?
I said it's a great shirt.
But it's a great example, though, because, hey, he has very different style than I do. Even if it's a little different. But the point is that, like, it's an opinion. I don't have to agree, but it's not personal. It's like my ego says it's personal. It's like the bad data example. Like you have bad data. Okay, like, I didn't do it. Someone has to, let's fix the data. The sooner I get over my feelings, the faster the data gets fixed, the faster it's good information going in. So, your point's spot on. Like, tell me I got a booger in my nose, please. I want to walk around with that all day.
Yeah. And do you think this might be a kind of a side quest that we go on that we don't need to go too far down, but do you think it's this kind of like there's so many people pleasers out there, or do you think people need to do the sales and marketing dance to actually get to grow their business and do the fluff and promise the world and not deliver? Like, one level deeper, why do you think that everyone doesn't operate with that level of candor?
I'm gonna take that one first, because I think it's partially, and we never knows this with his business, but I think in the tech industry, it's how much value are we going to extract from our customers? Like if we're delivering value, how much value are we going to extract? How much can we hit sales this quarter? What do we need to do? Because look, we all are businesses, so we need money and profit, right? But are we driving that money and profit by extracting more or providing more value? And I tell my team all the time, and look, this concept's not Tony, this is Jeff Bezos. This is hugely successful businesses deliver value to the customer, and they'll continue to come back. You'll get more wallet share. When your focus is on delivering value and making that value right and increasing that value, customers will buy more from you, right? So I think it's the wrong focus. A lot of in the tech industry, VC focused companies, private equity, it's all about the investors, not about the customers. So when you have that center of gravity that everything's about the customer, but that doesn't mean you can't have investment, but as a leader, if you're most concerned about the customers, then your team's going to be most concerned. Your metrics are around that. Everything's about the customer. Your values are going to be aligned with the customer because they want more value for their money always, right?
Yeah, I think like my I'm going to say my expertise is actually around leadership and people development. And so I kind of always think about this going back to that. And that's like, if I'm coaching somebody, my job is to give them feedback to help them become better. Never in anyone's history, even as parents, like we don't give our kids heck because we want them to be worse and make them feel bad. We give them heck because we want them to be better. Now, we don't give them we don't yell at them, and that's probably the best way to do it because we think, oh, I'm frustrated, all that stuff. And I'll tell you a funny story about that kind of drove this lesson for me. So my son was like 12 years old. This is like kind of beginning of COVID. I can't even remember what he did. And I got really upset with him and I yelled at him. Like I lost it. And I said, go up to your room. I don't want to see you. Don't come back down. And he went up, and I think 2 hours later, he comes back down and he says, Dad, when you yell at me, I stop listening. And so the point there was, I'm going to coach him, and I lost the effectiveness of the coaching. And so I use that extreme example in this is because I think what happens when we were kids, this is what happened. Our parents got mad at us. They hurt our feelings. They were giving us feedback. And so now as adults, when we go and say, hey, I don't want to be totally honest because if I do, and that person gets upset, I'm going to lose the piece of business. And that's as a vendor, and we sell to people as well. And so we're afraid that we're going to offend somebody because they're so emotionally tied to whatever they were doing. And this is like in life, people have to be right or they have to be wrong, as opposed to saying there's only degrees of right, no degrees of wrong. Okay. And so I think that's, to me, is what happens to people is that when I'm giving someone feedback, I'm worried about I'm going to hurt their feelings. But if I kind of reframe that and I go, hey, I'm not here to hurt their feelings. I'm here to help them. I want to have a dialogue and see how we can go through this process. I think that's the one piece that I think gets missed. And this is why people are afraid to be truly honest. It's kind of like, saying like, if I tell my wife that dress doesn't look good on her, like that's it, I'm done, right? As opposed to say, hey, you know what? I like that dress. and we're gonna have a great night today. So you know what I mean? Like, what's the right thing to say? And there's a way to do it, but it's a hard conversation to have, and I think this is how the coaching goes. And to me, it's about degrees of right and having a conversation to get to where you need to get to and being open to it.
I haven't heard that before of there's no degrees of wrong, there's just degrees of right. I think I'm getting it in my brain, but can you
I'll
explain
give you
what
another
that means to
example.
you?
Okay, there's people who are Muslim, they believe in Allah, and there's people who are Christian and they believe in God. Who's right? They're both right. Like, to me, they're both right. Now, one believes their version of it versus the other. The history may be different, but the gods are one God. Well, and I know we shouldn't get into religion on here. We can cut this out. But my point is like, who's right? They're both right. Now, if I believe in one version of it, my version's my right, and that person's version is their right. Now, imagine if we just said, let's have a dialogue. Let's talk about it. If we were just open to that conversation, imagine, I bet you they would come somewhere in the middle and go, hey, you know what? Actually, we're both right. We just see it from one side of the boulder versus the other side of the boulder. That's kind of how I see that. I know that's an extreme example, but I think that's how the reality plays out.
I think it also comes back to that point of ego, and you have to be right or wrong, right? I think it's also, if you have a natural curiosity to learn about people, learn about their businesses, learn about what they, and you're secure enough to say, oh, that's interesting. You have to be secure enough to say, I want to learn about you. I want to understand you. I want to understand how you look at the world. But then also the other person has to be secure enough and say, I can tell them never, well, I don't I don't really believe like you do. I get it. I can accept you that we're different and we think about things differently, but it's okay. But I learned something and I may look at the world a little differently based on how you look at it. I think too often people are just too insecure or closed-minded to say, just because I learn about something doesn't mean that I'm going to believe that way. But I might learn something, and you're okay if you believe that way, and I'm going to believe the way I believe. But it was interesting to dialogue and get different viewpoints. And I think too many times people just aren't secure enough to do that in their own mind or self-comfortable. But as far as teaching, I agree with Munawar that it can be like, well, did you ever think about it this way? Doesn't mean you have to do it, but think about it, right? And I do that with my kids a lot. I do that. Think about where you're at and what this is over here, what this is over here, what this future is, and just think about that, right? And it's powerful if you can step back and look a little big picture at the world around you.
Yeah, and Tony, I know that you and I have talked about this, particularly when we were talking about the Kodaris story or about just how it was built with this idea of distributors are their own business experts, and Kodaris is the technology expert. And in a good partnership, you need the other person, right? Like Kodaris needs distributors to talk about their business challenges and explain how things are done today versus how maybe they would want for them to be done versus what their customers need. And we've talked about that too, like internally of when to challenge a customer on like how to say no to them. Like if we're so customer focused and we want them to be so happy all of the time, but yet sometimes we need to say no to them if we're not going to do that or there's a better way or, actually we're going to, build the technology in this way. Like that's something that we've talked about that's difficult to kind of coach people on internally of like when can you push back and when can you say no. But it kind of comes down to like I imagine there's two expertises and then there's a natural curiosity between the two people in this business relationship to learn more about the other so that the partnership can actually thrive. And that's not a question. I'm just going to launch you guys into responding to that.
You know what's interesting about that, Margaret, is like if I'm not curious about what you're saying, how do I expect you to be curious about what I'm saying? So let's just go with the whole no philosophy. Like you say something to me, I'm like, no, that's not the way it's going to work. Like, I didn't even listen to you, right? Like right away, I'm like, okay, well, tell me more. Instead, I should be like, okay, tell me more. Okay, tell me a little more. Let's get deeper. Let's go deeper and deeper. More questions, open-ended questions to figure out the reasoning, and then go down the road. Well, hold on. Let me ask you this question. Have you thought about this perspective? Oh, now it's not about saying no. It's about getting to the best right for our situation today. Because we know the way technology changes 10 years from now, or even 5 weeks from now, the right could be different. It could be a pivot, or it could be a 180 pivot. Like, who knows, right?
We used to be able to use that timeline of like 10 years from now,
Yeah.
imagine. Now it's like,
Yeah.
tomorrow, imagine what might be possible.
Totally different, right? Yeah. But yeah, like that to me, when I think about these things, I think like ask the right questions and you'll go down the right road and get to where you want to get.
Yeah, I think internally at Kodaris, and we are very focused on customers, but we do talk about, we're so focused on customers. We train and train and train on that. But it doesn't mean we do whatever the customer wants us to do. Because the first question, and when my account managers come back or say, customer wants to do X, inherently, why? What's the story? What are they trying to get done? Why are they trying to do it that way? And then it's like, well, I don't see that. We need to have a call. I need to understand more of why they're doing what they're trying to do, because many times it is, once you start asking the why questions, and then you say, but what if you did it this way, or why would you do it that way when there's this other way? That lots of times the customer's like, oh, I get it, right? And I think early on in distribution, I started in distribution. I didn't know anything about distributors 11 years ago. For our largest customer, they said, oh, go to this department and ask how this works. And then I'd go learn. Then I'd say, well, what about this? And they say, oh, you got to go to that other department and ask. And then I go over there and they'd say, no, that guy's wrong. This is how we do this. And I had to kind of almost start to piece together this picture of how operations ran. And everybody had a little different perspective of what was important, why it was important. And then I went and visited their customers. And then I mastered the drywall industry. And then I went to MRO, and it's like, no, we don't do it anything like that. Whenever his team said, we do it like this. And I'm like, oh, well, why do you do it like that? It's maybe 80% the same across distribution. I mean, you're bringing inventory in and you're shipping it out, but there's nuances to everything. So that constant learning about your customers, but then the cool thing that we get to do, that I say that many times our customers don't, is we see across industries. So we say, did you know in MRO they do it this way? In the construction industry, maybe you want to change how you do it there because they're doing this. Is that a better idea? Because you could also do this. And that's the best customers. They like, we love when you push back on us. We love the questions because we're trying to make our business better, right? So it's not a no, but it's like, they've done that for 20 years. I'm going to dig in with them to really figure out if this is really what they want, because there's so many better ways to do that. But to Munawar's point early on, the best relationship is built on, he's trying to make us better. We might not be able to get there today, so maybe we need this piece today because that's all we can do today. But that's where we want to go. That's compassion, that's caring, that's trying to help them achieve their success, not us sell more product, because lots of times we're turning down services and saying, no, we shouldn't build that for you because that's not going to work well. But I know that relationship is going to last another 10 years as long as we're both doing that. So it comes back, right?
Yeah, the thing that comes to my mind, if I was going to sum that up, is that curiosity gives you access to more information, and more information helps you provide a better decision or come to a better decision, which is the inherent long game of a relationship, right? But that curiosity and the lack of ego to be on the receiving end of curiosity is kind of that foundational layer in order for relationships and partnerships to build.
Yeah, if you think about all the thoughts that I want to say probably hundreds of thousands of thoughts that we have in our head, we get stuck on one being, we're going to die on this hill. And that's really at the end of the day, it has no meaning whether you go this way or that way. But to your point around, that curiosity piece, I think it really is what helps you make, the more curious you are, you actually make decisions faster and better because you can consume that information and see all the angles. Because most people, when they have difficulty making decisions because they don't know all the risks, so they fear making a decision. But when you're open and you're curious, like, okay, I've seen everything, I've had a good conversation, I can make the best decision for this moment. And I think that is really what curiosity drives.
Yeah, I agree. I think curiosity, and then when you've learned enough high level, you start to make gut level decisions because you've seen enough facts, even if you don't know for sure. You're going to make a small bet and then move it along.
I know that we had in here something around getting a little bit deeper into like the features we built for Go Live. Do we want to touch on that, or do we want to keep this fairly level in terms of relationship and business and partnerships?
I would say, I mean, we don't have to get feature specific, but I would say what impressed me and actually drove us early on was I was pretty honest with Munawar that, like, we don't have 5 big features you need, but I will build them and we'll deliver them for Go Live. And based on everything else we'd built and demos and stuff, obviously he had the confidence, or he was crazy in believing me. So they were difficult, right? Because coming from the construction industry is customer number one, and then we had a couple others in the construction industry, but going to a brand new vertical, if you will, there was definitely different needs, different major things we wanted to do, but we didn't necessarily have the time yet to do. And we did it. And the team, I rallied the team and said, we're not going to let people down. We're going to deliver. We have to deliver. And it wasn't necessarily easy, but I knew Munawar betted on me. This was his reputation, his leadership. And it drove us, but it also drove the relationship deeper, and that we were more committed than ever. And not that we're not committed to our customers, we are deeply committed. But I think as a leader, I know there's political risk when you lead an organization and you say, we're going to partner with this person, they're going to deliver, we'll have some bumps along the way, but we're going to make it, and the future's better, which it is. It's still progressing with, HD. I think it comes down to it deepened the relationship between me and Munawar. So even today at, releasing 7,000, 10,000 updates a year, there are things customers say, I'm going to need this for Go Live. And we size it up, we make sure we can do it, and we say, yeah, okay, we'll deliver. But if you deliver, that trust has just gone really deep. If you don't deliver, you've lost everything, right? So clear expectations about what you can deliver when, and what they should expect, and what risks there are to not getting there, and then making sure you deliver. And it was one of the hardest things for me to honestly, as our company grew, to depend on other people to help me deliver, because I couldn't control it. It took a while, but then that goes back to building the team and getting the best engineers, the best people on your team that you can trust that we're going to deliver together.
It's interesting because I agree. I don't know that there's any super feature that we implemented that we needed to get from where we were exactly so we had a website, e-com platform. But I'll say this, I had a bunch of lessons from that process that I apply today. Right now, here at Safety Express, I'm doing a technology assessment to figure out what the best way to go from our existing ERP e-commerce to the future state, which will be something else in the cloud with e-com, etc. And the biggest lesson I learned through that process was it's great to select. The easy part is to select who you want to go with. The hard part is to sync up every step of the way what that's going to be for the next X amount of years. So I'll call it infinite amount of years, because you have to have a set of dollars every year to implement the force multipliers in that year that are going to help drive so much more value than your competitors, so they never get caught up. And so when I was at HD, we were known for the best website, and then our competitors caught up, right? And I don't know. I mean, I can't say what they're doing now because I'm not there. But that concept is never, ever, ever let your competitors get caught up. Get to where you are today, because you have that strategic advantage with technology. And so, from my perspective, very similar here. We have a good website. Actually, I'm not going to say it's a good website. It's an okay website. It's on an e-com platform that has no ability to really do much more than a low-level integration with the e-com platform. We need to now level that up and then figure out for the next X amount of years that technology that's going to put us so far ahead of our competitors, because in any moment our competitors can get into a conversation like this and go, okay, we're going to accelerate and leapfrog. And so we always have to be leapfrogging and think about the force multipliers. And I remember when we were in Atlanta at the AIRS conference, all I could think of was, and I think I said this out loud, is we'll never, ever be able to catch up to your technology. Like you'll be so light years ahead of everybody that no one will be ever even close to implementing. And I can't remember the number you gave, and maybe you didn't give it a percentage, but I want to say it's probably very low in terms of fully integrated to all your solutions, which is great because everyone is striving to implement this piece first because it's right for our customer base versus this piece, which is right for someone else's customer base, and being able to align them and have conversations like we had that day to put the right things in front of our customers. And I think that's, to me, is like the biggest lesson. And my wife, who's a project manager, program manager, I always say, like, everything we do is an MVP. I'm an MVP. And she says, you can't say that. But I still believe you can, because it's like, this is today's minimal viable product. This is tomorrow's. And this is and every day it's something new once you implement. So we're constantly implementing. So we always kind of running to implement, and we're never stuck to where we are. And so to me, I think that's really what I learned is be ready to take a certain chunk of dollars every year and continue to make it better and better and better, so no one ever gets caught up.
Yeah, I think that speaks to our story that Margaret's helped us put into words. Is as a technology company, your biggest fear is becoming stale, right, or not delivering. But we depend on our customers to bring those challenges and to work with us and they say, hey, we got to be market leading. We need X, or we have to evolve to get this. Can you help us do that? And we say, sure, right? We scope it out, we build it together. And then our customers are keeping us on the cutting edge of technology because they're demanding more from us that we're building with our customers, who are the business experts in distribution, manufacturing, whatever industry. And we're constantly learning and upgrading our technology skills and delivering that back. And to your point of X dollars every year, I mean, that's what we see then across our customer base. You know, those X dollars are now pooling into a community, and we give those features free back to everybody else, which means those things that you're talking about, like you're going to implement someday or possibly use, are there when you're ready, free of charge. But to me, that's super exciting, because if that pools 100 customers today, 200, 500, 1,000, that's as a partnership with customers and recognizing you have the challenges, and what better way to build product that fits the market than hand in hand with customers who are facing industry challenges. Um, I can't say I planned it, but it's a cool model, something that I love because I love to build stuff and I love to learn about industry challenges, how things are done, and come together with experts and figure it out. And as long as Kodaris customers and Kodaris keep that culture, that it becomes, I think, almost a unstoppable force in the market and a different way of building technology than the very focused way that most technology companies build.
I agree.
So,
I love it. So we have a couple minutes left. I want to make sure that we have kind of like final words. If there's anything you guys want to get off your chest before we have our stop. So, Tony, I'll start with you. Like, not start with you, but is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? I thought that this was a really interesting conversation of high-level values and decision-making and partnership and whatnot.
only that I would say that, I think that as Munawar has, changed positions, I mean, that friendship, that relationship continues. I'm looking forward to a long future of working together. And I think as we look at how we impact the world, how we change the world, whether it's, us providing more technology for our customers, which impact their margins, maybe they pay their employees more, maybe they deliver better to their customers. We all want to impact the world, and I see that as great companies and great partnerships impact the world for good, maybe ways we don't even see, and that's fine. But I think doing the right thing and building a sustainable partnerships across the industry is most important for me. And I think if we stay focused on that, it becomes incredibly fun and hopefully impacts companies who are also trying to do something similar in distribution or whatever they're doing. And as we look at Kodaris in the future, we formally committed to, Eris and innovation and working with our customers. So the future is exciting, and future podcasts we're going to talk technical stuff and AI and stuff. But at the bedrock of that is not the technology; it's what we're creating together in the future for not only us but our customers and families.
Yeah, I like to, I'm going to riff off that a little bit because I think from a leadership perspective, as leaders, we think that, hey, we have to be the smartest person in the room. But I think you said something that was really important. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of knowledge that you likely just don't know. And it's so important that we be able, from my perspective, as the individual leader who has to make these decisions, and we have to get that I rely on the people that, we're engaging in a good conversation with and paying a ton of money to have, like a Tony who's going to give us information that we haven't seen before, or perspective. And there may be someone on his team that has something different, or someone on my team that has something different, to get them in the room, which leads to getting other people in the room. And we talked about Jonathan earlier, like, hey, I know Jonathan. I thought, hey, it'd be great for now. You have another perspective on how procurement can affect your product. Now that just brings, and then there's someone else that tomorrow we're going to introduce to each other, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the level of knowledge that the experts that we want to engage with, that we hire to bring into our lives in these situations specifically, or we may not hire them. They're just a relationship. But we have to remember that we don't have to have all the information. We're supposed to have other people that have specialized knowledge that are going to use us for our specialized knowledge. And I think it's so important as we kind of end this conversation, if, for those leaders who are going through this process, is you have to take that perspective, be open, bring on the people that are your true, are truly there to help you make decisions, are there for your benefit. They're your coaches, et cetera. They're your mentors. Bring them into that conversation and help you through this process. I think that will bring what you need to get done, the right technology for your solutions, but also make sure you're implementing it in a way that is truly effective for your business, and you're getting a perspective that you just never got before, so you can make the best decisions.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Kodaris Community Show. We'll see you back next time.